Imagine getting to the front of the grocery checkout line, only to be told the chocolate-covered granola bar in your cart is suddenly illegal to buy.
I mean, it sounds like a totally bizarre hypothetical, right? But it is quickly becoming a daily reality for millions of shoppers.
Yeah, and it is throwing the entire grocery industry into absolute chaos.
Oh, completely.
We all know the basics of S&P, right? The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is a behemoth. I mean, we are talking about a program that deploys $100 billion a year.
Right. And it serves, what, 42 million people?
Exactly, 32 million. But recently, 22 states won federal approval to fundamentally change how those funds work. They actually banned the purchase of junk food using S&P benefits. So suddenly, things like soda, energy drinks, and candy are just off limits at the register.
Yeah, it's a massive shift, and it's really being driven by this new Make America Healthy Again, or MAHA, initiative.
Right. But just this week, a major federal lawsuit dropped. This lawsuit actively blocks the bans in 5 specific states, claiming the new rules force a massive billion-dollar crisis onto grocery stores and shoppers alike.
We are looking at a massive collision here. You have these huge public health goals slamming directly into the logistical realities of modern grocery stores, not to mention the strict boundaries of federal law.
So today we are diving deep into a stack of legal filings, university research, and retail industry reports. We want to figure out how this collision actually works on the ground.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And I need to say this right up front to you, our listeners, because our sources cover highly charged political policies involving the Trump administration, advocates, and lawmakers from both sides of the aisle. We want to be clear. We are not taking political sides today.
Right, definitely.
We are not endorsing any of these viewpoints. We are just here to impartially break down the facts and arguments contained in the source material for you.
It is so essential to look at the data objectively, especially when a policy literally rewrites the rules for millions of families and thousands of businesses.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the intent first. Why change SNFP in the first place?
Well, the Trump administration, specifically led by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, they are pushing this change hard.
Right.
Their stated goal is to combat America's epidemic of diet-related chronic diseases. They basically argue that taxpayer dollars simply should not fund the purchase of items with zero nutritional value.
Yeah, the soda and the candy.
Exactly. By actively blocking those items at the register, the administration aims to nudge millions of people toward healthier eating habits.
I mean, okay, but does banning of food actually make people eat healthier? Or is it like, I don't know, like telling a teenager they can't listen to rock music? It just makes them find a way around it, right?
That is exactly the question. And the logic of the ban makes intuitive sense at first glance. Like, if you stop subsidizing a harmful product, people should theoretically consume less of it.
Theoretically, sure.
But a nutritional scientist at the University of Michigan decided to actually test that exact premise. They used randomized controlled trials, which, you know, in the scientific community, those are the gold standard. They eliminate the guesswork.
Wait, so what did the trials actually test? Did they just ask people what they ate on a survey?
No, they tracked actual purchasing behavior. They compared households using standard, unrestricted SNP benefits against households given restricted benefits that actively blocked junk food.
Oh, wow. And what happened?
The data reveals a pretty surprising outcome. Restricting SNP purchases does not meaningfully improve a person's overall diet.
Really? They didn't buy healthier stuff?
Nope. They did not suddenly buy more broccoli or carrots just because the soda was blocked on their card.
I have to wonder if this is like squeezing a balloon, you know?
Yeah.
Like you restrict the SNP funds on this side, but the junk food purchasing just bulges out the other side.
That is a perfect analogy.
Do shoppers just use their physical cash to buy the soda and then use their SNP card to buy the bread and eggs?
Yes, exactly. Behavioral economists actually call it mental accounting. The shopper still buys the exact same items. They just shuffle which pocket the money comes from.
Ah, so the overall diet remains identical.
Right. The taxpayer is still subsidizing the household's total grocery budget, but the policy completely fails to change the actual nutritional outcome.
Well, if it fails to change the diet, what does it actually do? Just annoy people.
It creates friction. A lot of it. The researchers noted a massive increase in unintended negative consequences, primarily public shaming.
Oh, man, yeah.
I mean, SNP participants already report facing significant social stigma as it is. Now picture the checkout line.
Right, there's people behind you.
Exactly. A cashier has to physically pull a prohibited item out of the bagging area, hand it back to the customer, and explain loud enough to be heard that their benefits will not cover it.
That sounds awful.
Mm-hmm.
It turns a routine, quiet grocery trip into a public spectacle.
It really does. And the researchers argue this operates on a pretty demeaning premise. This idea that low-income families cannot be trusted to navigate a grocery aisle on their own.
So the restriction approach creates emotional friction at the register, but it doesn't create health. What does the research say actually works? Because, the chronic disease epidemic is very real.
It is very real. And the data points heavily toward incentive programs rather than restrictions.
Okay, like what?
Well, Michigan runs a program called Double Up Food Bucks. Instead of banning items, this program tackles the actual barrier to healthy eating, which is cost.
Right, because fresh produce is expensive, and calories from ultra-processed foods are incredibly cheap.
Exactly. So how does the math on an incentive program work for the shopper? It is a direct match. If you spend $1 of your SNAP benefits on apples, the program automatically gives you an extra $1 to spend on more fresh produce.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah. And the randomized controlled trials show this approach genuinely changes behavior. It empowers the shopper, it significantly improves dietary intake, and, it completely respects the dignity of the customer.
It changes the economic reality of the food rather than just saying no.
Right.
Okay, so the health data shows these bans create friction instead of better diets. But that friction at the checkout line isn't just an emotional toll for the shopper. It is manifesting as a literal billion-dollar technical failure for the grocery store's computers.
Oh, the grocery glitch. It is wild.
This brings us to the retail industry reports. Because a policy is only as effective as its execution, right?
And the sources show the execution here is incredibly complex. The financial burden falling on the food retail sector is just staggering.
Let's look at the numbers, because they are wild. You'll love this. Upgrading point-of-sale systems to filter out all these newly banned items will cost the retail sector $1.6 billion up front.
Just up front.
Right, that is just to install the software. Then it will cost over $750 million every single year to maintain it.
Yeah, and a massive supercenter faces up to $1.5 million in costs per location.
Which is insane when you consider the profit margins in this industry are notoriously razor thin, like 1% to 2%.
To understand why it costs so much, you really have to look at how a grocery store functions. They track inventory using SCA stock keeping units.
Right. The barcodes.
Exactly. Every product has a unique barcode. To enforce these state waivers, the store's computer has to instantly recognize whether a specific barcode belongs to an allowed food or a banned food.
And product formulations change constantly. A manufacturer might swap out an ingredient, right? And suddenly a cereal moves from the allowed list to the banned list.
Yep. And the state government doesn't track that daily ingredient shift, so the grocer actually has to hire staff to manually update their database every single day.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Furthermore, the legal definitions of junk food are completely fractured. There is no national standard here.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting and honestly incredibly messy. The Law 360 report gives a perfect example of this chaos. Take a standard chocolate-covered granola bar.
Oh, the granola bar dilemma.
Yes. So 3 states implemented their waivers in the exact same week: Idaho, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. In Idaho, the law says candy does not include anything containing flour.
Okay.
Well, a granola bar contains flour, so in Idaho, it is an approved grocery item.
It passes the test.
But cross the border into Oklahoma, their law states that items with flour components or items coated in chocolate are considered candy. So that exact same granola bar is suddenly banned in Oklahoma.
And Louisiana takes the third path.
Right. Louisiana's law explicitly exempts granola bars by name. So a granola bar is a health food in Idaho, a criminal offense in Oklahoma, and a protected species in Louisiana.
I mean, that is a nightmare for a cashier.
It is.
It is an absolute nightmare. And it breaks down even further when you realize how SNAP benefits travel, because multi-state grocery chains must apply the rules based on the state that issued the customer's EBT card.
Wait. Not the state where the store actually sits.
Yeah.
Imagine finding out your
Wait, I want to make sure I
bill
understand the
is
mechanics
secretly
of this.
funding the government's
If a family
massive
from
spending
Oklahoma
addiction.
is visiting relatives in Louisiana and they go to the local supermarket,
Right.
the Louisiana
imagine
cashier's
for a second
computer
that you have a
has
savings
to
account.
somehow know and apply the
And,
Oklahoma laws for that
you
specific
swore to your family,
transaction.
Yes.
hand over heart.
You're kidding.
I am
that
not.
this money was
The
strictly
retailer
for
must
fixing a leaking
maintain
roof.
multiple overlapping compliance
if we don't
regimes
fix this
in their
roof,
computers for the
the
exact
house is
same
gonna
physical
collapse.
products.
It's an
And,
existential crisis for the house.
To make
Exactly.
matters
It's the
worse,
Save
the
the
government
House
has
fund.
not provided
But then,
a
your
master
car
list of
breaks down.
barcodes.
How are
Spend a
they
little too
supposed
much
to
on
know what to
groceries,
block?
You've got bills piling
out
up.
of all the
So what
states
do you do?
implementing these
You raid the roof
waivers,
fund.
only Oklahoma
that money,
provided an
pay off your credit
actual
cards,
universal
and tell your
product
family,
code
hey, don't
list
worry,
of
we'll
banned
fix the roof
items.
later.
Just one
Right.
state.
Just
and in this
one.
scenario,
Every other
the
state
roof
just
is the
gave a
planet,
vague
or
written
at least
definition
Maryland's climate
and
goals.
essentially told the
And
retailers
the car
to
is a
figure it out.
massive,
Wow.
self-inflicted
And get this, if a retailer
$1.5
guesses
billion
wrong and gets caught out of
state budget
compliance
deficit.
twice,
A completely avoidable
the
deficit,
government
I
can
might add.
revoke their
Welcome to the deep
license to
dive.
accept SNAP
Today we're
entirely.
exploring a
That
classic
is
case of
devastating.
fiscal sleight of
And,
hand coming out of Annapolis.
Let's explain the
We're looking
checkout
at the
mechanism
Strategic
itself,
Energy
because
Investment
it
Fund.
is not just about
SAF.
recognizing a barcode.
It's a
It is the
huge pot
split
of money
tender problem.
meant to save
Right.
the
If a
environment.
customer has a
But it's
cart
turning
with
into a hidden
$50
tax
of approved
on
apples and
every
chicken
single
and
person
$10 of
paying an
banned soda,
electric bill
the
in
computer has
Maryland.
to instantly
It
bifurcate
really
that
is. It's
receipt.
become the
Which
center
requires
of a huge
immense
political
processing
fight.
logic.
You've
Right.
got
It
a
has to apply
Democratic
the SNAP
governor,
card only to
frustrated
the apples and chicken,
environmentalists making some
calculate the
very
remaining
awkward
balance,
compromises,
and adjust the
and
sales
conservative
tax.
critics
'Cause,
who are rightly
SNAP
calling
items
this
are
whole
usually
thing a
tax
shell
exempt,
game.
A shell
but the
game.
soda might not.
And when you look at the
Exactly.
documents
Then it
we
prompts
have
the
today,
customer for a second form of
reports,
payment.
budget
All of this happens
proposals,
while the line
critiques
behind
from
them is
Senate
backing
Republicans.
up.
And
It is
this
really
brings up a
hard to
critical
unsee it.
point
Our
about
mission
the
for
broader
this deep dive
community
is simple.
impact.
You follow the money.
A massive
Always
supermarket
follow the
chain.
money.
We are
might
going to
be
be
able
able
to
to
absorb
absorb
a fund designed to fight climate change
hit,
is
right?
being used to plug
They can
holes
upgrade
in
their
the state
systems
budget
to handle
and we'll dig into the
split
argument that
transactions.
this isn't found
But
money
think about
at
a
all.
small,
This is essentially a
independent
backdoor
corner
tax
store
on
in a
families.
rural town.
Let's get right into it.
Those
The
independent
Strategic
grocers
Energy
run
Investment
on a
Fund.
1%
It sounds very
profit
efficient.
margin. Very
A
important.
$5,000
What does it
software
actually do?
upgrade
Well,
could wipe out their
on
entire
paper,
yearly
It
profit.
is the state's
Exactly.
green
The
piggy
technology
bank.
costs are
This
fixed.
IIF is managed
A
by
rural
the Maryland
convenience store
Energy
has to buy the
Administration.
same
Its whole
expensive
stated
point of
purpose
sale
is
software
to
as
reduce
a
energy
massive
bills,
chain,
cut
but they
waste,
process
and
far
fund
fewer
renewable
sales
energy.
to absorb that
Like
cost.
solar panels and
That's a
efficiency
huge
problem.
So they face a terrible choice.
But here is the
They can
real
try to
aha
raise
moment
prices
of the
on
story.
everyone, which hurts the community. They can
Where
drop
does the money
SNAP
actually
entirely
come from?
which cuts off their most
Because they
vulnerable
aren't just
customers,
taxing you
or
directly
they just
for
board
it.
up their windows and
No,
close.
and that's
And
why
when that rural
politicians
grocer
absolutely love
closes,
it. It feels
creates a
free.
food desert.
So about
Yep.
40% comes
Suddenly,
from
an
regional
entire
carbon
town
options.
has zero access
But
to
the
fresh,
big chunk,
nutritious
the one
food.
growing like crazy,
So policy
comes from
designed to
something
make
called
people healthier
alternative
could
compliance
ironically
payments,
eliminate the
or
only source
ACPs,
of fresh
which is just a
vegetables
fancy
in a rural
government term
county.
for a fine.
It's tragic.
Right. It's a fine
and
for failure.
because
Let
the
me break it
financial
down.
and logistical
Maryland law
chaos is
forces
so
utility
severe,
companies
it
to buy a
naturally
certain
spilled
amount of
over
green
into federal
energy.
court,
They have to prove they're
which
using
leads us
renewables.
to the latest
But if
development.
they can't
Correct, so
find
the
that
pressure
green
finally
energy, or if
snapped.
it's just way too expensive
A
on the
major
market,
lawsuit
Which it
called
usually is.
Aragon v.
Yeah, the
Rollins
state
was
gives them an
filed in
escape
Washington,
hatch.
D.C.
The
by the
utility
National
can just
Center
pay
for
a
Law
fee
and
directly to
Economic
the state
Justice
instead.
alongside
That
an
fee is the
antitrust
ACP.
law firm.
And
here's the kicker.
They are targeting the
Utilities
waivers
are
in 5
increasingly
specific
just paying
states:
the fine
Colorado,
because it's cheaper than
Iowa,
actually buying the green
Nebraska,
energy.
Tennessee, and West Virginia.
The climate fund is
These are
getting
5 of the states
incredibly
pushing
rich.
forward without
Precisely
providing retailers
because
with that
the
crucial
green energy
barcode
mandates
list.
are failing.
The plaintiffs are
Precisely.
using a
It
very
is a
specific
completely
legal mechanism
perverse
to fight
incentive.
this.
The
They are
government
invoking
made the
the
mandate
Administrative
so
Procedure
aggressive
Act,
and the
or
market
the
is so
APA, and
distorted
something called
that
the
power
State
companies
Farm
are just
Doctrine.
writing
Okay, I
checks
read
to
that
the
in the
state
outline and
instead
it
of
threw me.
going
Does this
green.
have to do with
And
the
the
insurance
stats on this are
It
just
does,
staggering.
actually. The
They
State
are.
Farm Doctrine
In
stems from a
2022,
famous
this revenue
1980s
was
Supreme Court
$77
case.
million.
The government
By
tried to revoke a rule
2025, it
mandating
jumped to
passive restraints like seatbelts and
$365
airbags
million.
in cars.
Wow.
But
From
they do it without
77
actually
million to
considering the safety
365
data.
million
So the
in
Supreme
3
Court
years.
stepped
Right,
in
so now
and
the
said,
state
look,
has this
a government
massive
agency
accidental
cannot just
pot of
ignore
gold,
obvious facts
supposedly
when
for
making
green
a rule.
projects.
If
But
they
remember, that
ignore
money didn't
reality,
just fall out
their
of the
rule
sky.
is
The
deemed
utility companies
arbitrary
paid
and
those
capricious.
fines.
and
do you think
therefore
those
illegal.
massive corporations
So what
just
does this
eat
all
that
mean
cost out of the
legally?
goodness of their
How
hearts?
can plaintiffs
Oh,
prove
absolutely
the
not. They
government
pass
broke the
every
rules
single
here?
penny of
Are they
that onto the
taking that
customer.
1980s
Exactly. It shows
seatbelt
up
logic
right
and
on your
applying it to
electric bill.
grocery
So
stores?
what's
the everyday
fascinating
ratepayer,
here is that,
are
yes,
paying
they
for the
are. They
utilities
argue the
failure to
USDA
meet a
is
government
acting
mandate.
arbitrary and
The
capricious
state collects your
because
money,
they completely
drops it in the
ignored
safe,
the
and
$1.6
says,
billion
look at all this cash we have
compliance
for the
cost
climate.
retailers.
Which brings us to the rate.
Exactly.
Because
The
that money
APA
is definitely
exists to
not
prevent
staying in the
agencies
climate
from making
fund.
massive
Not
rules
anymore.
on a
Enter
whim.
Governor
They have
Wes
to provide
Moore.
notice,
His
allow for public
administration is
comment,
staring
and
down
weigh
a
the costs.
projected
The
$1.5
lawsuit claims the
billion
USDA
budget
completely
deficit.
skipped this step.
$1.5
The
billion.
approval letters
You
sent to
can't
these
just
states
ignore a
simply
hole
do
that
not
deep.
mention the multi-billion
And
dollar
when
impact
government
on the retail
overspends
industry.
to that degree,
You cannot
they start
mandate a
checking
change of
under
this
the couch
magnitude and
cushions for
legally
loose
pretend the
change.
cost does not exist.
Except here,
And
the
the
couch
plaintiffs
cushion
have a
is the
very
Green
strong
Energy
historical
Fund,
precedent
and
they're
the
using
loose
against
change
the
is hundreds
USDA,
of
right?
millions of taxpayer
Because this
dollars.
idea has
So
been
what's the
pitched
actual
proposal.
This raises a major question about
The governor's plan
consistency.
diverts
Back in
$292
2018, during the first Trump administration,
directly from the
states of Maine and Nevada asked for very similar
balance the
waivers to
books.
ban junk
just to
food.
cover their
happened?
overspending.
The
They
USDA
are
formally
using
rejected
energy
them.
fines to pay for
And the specific
general
reason the
government
USDA
operations.
gave in 2018
Bureaucrachy,
was that it would
salaries,
impose
office
significant
supplies,
burdens
you
on
name it.
retailers and
But that's not even all
drastically
of it.
increase
Yeah.
government
I read in the
administrative
sources there's
costs.
also a rebate
So the
scheme.
plaintiffs are
Yes,
pointing to 2018
this is the
and
part
saying,
critics are calling a
you
political
admitted
sweetener.
this was too
They're grabbing
burdensome
another
back then. The
$100
technology has
million
not changed
out
to
of
make
the
it any
fund
easier,
to give
so
a
how can you
one-time
suddenly prove it now
$40 rebate
without
to
explaining what
eligible
changed?
households.
Precisely.
$40.
That is a
$40.
core
So let me get
legal
this straight.
vulnerability
The
for
state
government
mandates
here.
drive up
Furthermore,
energy
the plaintiffs
costs.
argue that a state
The
does
utility
not have the
companies pass
unilateral
those
authority
massive
to alter
costs
the
to
federal
you and me.
definition of
Our
eligible
bills go
food.
up by
Right, because it's a
hundreds of
federal
dollars a
program.
year.
Exactly.
And
For
then the
over
governor
60
takes a
years,
chunk of
the
our own
definition
money,
of food
hands
under
us back
the Food
a
and
crisp
Nutrition Act
$40
has been
bill
stable across
and basically
state
says,
lines,
you're welcome.
allowing
That is the
individual
exact
states to
math.
draw their
It's
own
wild.
lines.
And if you look at the
shatters a
recent
unified
supplemental
federal
budget, they're
program
cutting or
into
shifting
50
another $80
different
million.
pieces.
But
When
the
you add all
lawsuit
this
goes
up,
beyond
this
just
raid
corporate
depletes the
software
fund by
costs and legal
82%.
documents.
82% of
The
the fund
plaintiffs
wiped
actually
out.
include
Wiped out.
individual
Leaving only about
SNIP
164
recipients
million
who are
for the
being directly
actual green
harmed by these
initiatives it was
bans.
legally
Yeah.
meant
It brings
for.
this whole
That is not a
abstract
trim.
legal battle
That's a
right
total
back to the
gutting.
human toll.
The
And
human
this is where the
element in these
politics gets
filings
super
is
interesting.
vital. It
Because
really
you would assume
demonstrates
the
the danger of
environmentalist
applying
groups
blanket
like the
restrictions
Sierra
to something
Club
as
or the
complex
Chesapeake
as
Climate
human
Action
health.
Network.
Yeah, look at Mr. Craig
You'd
from
assume they'd be
Iowa, one of the
furious.
plaintiffs named
They
in the suit.
were.
Mr. Craig
Initially,
suffers from
when
chronic
this
kidney
first
disease.
leaked,
Oh,
they called it
right.
To
unacceptable.
survive and manage
They
his
said it was a
hydration levels,
huge
his
mistake
doctors
to use
explicitly
this
instruct
money
him
as
to
a
consume
petty
drinks heavily
cash drawer.
fortified with
But
specific
then they
electrolytes.
folded.
They completely
He needs
folded.
things like
Now
Gatorade
they are
and
actually
Pedialyte.
supporting
Which the
parts
state
of the
generally
governor's
classifies as
spending
sports
plan.
drinks or
Talk
sweetened
about
beverages.
strange bedfellows.
Yes. Why
And
on
under
earth would they do
Iowa's
that?
new waiver,
If they truly
those
believe
drinks are
climate
legally
change is an
blocked.
existential
He cannot
crisis,
buy them with his
why let the
SNAP
state
benefits.
raid the survival
He gets to the
fund?
register.
It's just
he tries
raw
to buy the
political
exact fluids his
calculation.
doctor
They know
prescribed,
voters are getting
and the computer
crushed
tells
by
him no.
inflation
That's
and high energy
awful.
bills right now.
A policy
If
meant to
these
stop
green groups
teenagers from
attack
drinking
a $40
soda
rebate,
is
even
actively
if it's a
preventing a
total
man with kidney
gimmick,
disease
they
from
look like they
buying the
don't
medical
care about
hydration
working
he needs to
families.
survive.
So they have to play
This
the game.
highlights
They
why
are
defining
swallowing
junk
a
food
very
by
bitter
category
pill.
is so difficult.
In exchange for letting
nutrition
the
is
governor
deeply
raid the fund
individualized.
today,
What
they
might
are
be an
lobbying
unhealthy
for a
sugary
new
drink
law
to a
to
healthy
create a
teenager
funding
is a
floor
medically
in the
necessary
future.
Meaning
electrolyte
what
source
exactly?
for a patient
Meaning
with
they
kidney
want to
failure.
guarantee
When the
that state
government
will
uses a
mandate
sledgehammer instead
roughly
of a scalpel, these edge cases
$365
fall through
million
the
a
cracks,
year,
on
resulting
climate
in
spending
severe
moving
health
forward.
consequences.
So they are throwing
It is
today's
incredibly messy on
taxpayers
every
under
level.
the bus
You have
to
checkout
lock in a
cashiers
permanent
forced to
claim
act
on
as
your wallet
dietitians.
later.
You've
That's
got
the
multi-million-dollar
gamble. And it brings
software
us
systems
right to the
crashing under the
core
weight of
conservative
conflicting state
critique.
definitions, and now a
People
federal
like Senate
court is
Minority
stepping in
Leader
to
Steve
untangle the
Hershey
whole
aren't
mess.
buying
And
this
the
spin
outcome
at
of this
all.
specific
Not for a
lawsuit
second.
in
Let's
DC
walk through their
will
argument
likely
because it
dictate
really
the entire
exposes the math
future
here.
of the
They call it the
MAHA
hidden
initiative.
tax.
Right.
If the
Let's
courts
be
strike
rigorous
down
about
these
this logic.
5 state waivers,
Step one,
it deals
the
a
state
fatal
forces a
blow
green
to the
mandate that is
administration's
totally
signature health
disconnected from
policy.
economic
But if they hold
reality.
them.
Step
But if the
2,
courts
the utilities
uphold the
can't
rules,
meet it,
the
so they
retail
pay the
industry
massive
has to
fine.
figure out how
Step
to pay
3,
that $1.6
utilities raise your
billion
electric
bill
rates to cover the
immediately.
fine.
And
So
step
why does
4,
all of this
the
matter
state
to
grabs
you,
that
the
fine
listener?
money to pay for
This deep
general
dive isn't
government
just
bloat.
an abstract
Exactly.
debate about
So,
government
in effect,
bureaucracy
the
or
state
legal
is taxing
jargon.
electricity
It
users
dictates
to
how
pay for the
$100
DMV
billion
or
of
state
your
salaries
tax money is
without
spent.
ever having to
Yeah, your
publicly
money.
vote on a
It
tax
determines
hike.
if the
Hershey
local
says
independent
families
grocer
are being
down your
double
street
billed.
can afford
You
to
pay
stay
your
in
regular
business,
income taxes,
or
and then you
if
pay
they have
this
to shutter
massive
their doors
surcharge
and
on
create
your
a food
electric bill.
desert.
It's
And fundamentally, it
incredibly
tests
sneaky.
exactly
It's
how far the
politically
government can go to
convenient.
define
And there is
what
a
you are
second
allowed
layer
to
to
put
this
in your
criticism.
body.
It truly is a fascinating
hypocrisy of it all.
intersection
This is
of
the
public health,
most
retail
glaring
technology,
part.
and civil
Politicians
liberties.
constantly tell
And
us climate
I want to
change is
leave
an
you with a
existential
final
threat.
thought to
They
mull
say the
over.
world is burning.
Okay, let's hear it.
We
Code
have
red
spent
for
a lot of
humanity.
time today
Right.
discussing the
zero
massive software
time to
costs
waste.
and the
So
checkout
critics are
friction
asking a very
hindering this
simple,
policy.
very devastating
But imagine
question.
a future,
If
maybe
this is
10
the
years
most
from
urgent crisis in human history.
Where point-of-sale artificial intelligence becomes so advanced and so incredibly cheap
your budget.
that sorting these rules
raid your
costs the
life-saving
grocery
surgery
stores
fund to pay off your
absolutely
credit card.
nothing.
Exactly.
Oh, wow, okay.
If the
Critics
friction
argue
at the
this proves
checkout
the whole
line vanished
climate panic is just
entirely
rhetoric.
and the computer
When push
seamlessly
comes to
filtered your
shove,
cart in a
keeping the government
millisecond,
bureaucrusy fully
would we
funded
still fight
is
over
way
this?
more important
Or
to
is
them
the
than
battle
the green
really
projects they
about
claim are
who
vital
gets to
for our
decide
survival.
what freedom
They
looks
treat
like
the
in
fund
the
like
grocery
a
aisle?
slush fund.
That is the
And it
ultimate
entirely
question
undermines
sitting
their
in the
moral
cart.
authority.
The next
the
time
money
you were
isn't
standing at the
sacred,
front of the
then the
grocery
crisis
checkout
clearly
line,
isn't as
staring
urgent
at a
as they claim on
chocolate-covered
cable news.
granola bar,
Let's talk about the
remember
real-world
just how much
consequences
invisible
of this.
legal machinery
Because
is grinding
while
away behind the
politicians
scenes
are
to
moving
decide if you
hundreds
could
of
buy it.
millions around on
Thanks for joining us
spreadsheets,
on this deep dive.
it affects
We'll catch you
the
next time.
actual